I figure what better way to start the new year off on this channel than with acknowledging the sheer mass of books I have accumulated on my physical TBR. In theory, I could not buy a book for all of 2025. Now, I know that won't happen, but I've instilled a rule that I want to read 3 of these for every 1 book that I buy this year. So, let's see what my options are. First off, we've got All My Rage by Saba Tahir, and this is one that has floated around for years. I picked it up because I think it was at Half Price Books for like, just kind of like in my face, and so I was like, yeah, I will get to that one day because I know I want to read it. Next up, we have The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This one has been around for a long time as well, but I have heard such conflicting opinions on it that I hesitate to pick it up, and it's weird that I would buy a book and then unhaul it without reading it, but I am so anxious about this one because I don't want to pick up a book that I assume I'm not going to enjoy. So if you're a fan of this one, please influence me. We've got Educated by Tara Westover. This is actually a book that I bought for my girlfriend, and I don't even know if she's read it yet, but I want to read it very badly, so I am counting it in this video. For the most part, these are all books that I have bought myself. Like, there's maybe a couple that are like collectively ours, but this one is definitely hers, and I'm putting it in this video because I want to read it this year. Then we've got The Animators by Kyla Rae Whitaker, and this I've heard nothing about ever. I think I also maybe accumulated this from like the sale rack at Half Price or something, because this cover absolutely caught my eye, and it is about, well, can't tell you, television writing and somebody who pitches a show to a network, I believe. This one's kind of a recent pickup. It is an absolutely heavy read, and that is The Promised Land by Barack Obama. This thing isn't, like, this is dense. I cannot explain to you how heavy this book is. I probably will want to read it in the next 4 years. So, we've got The Zookeeper's Wife. This has been on my shelf for a really, really long time. It sits all the way up against the wall, and I think I just honestly never even notice it. This one I'm super, super excited about. It's Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This one, the pressure feels on because I think I have to love it, and I don't want to waste it. Like, I don't want to read it too fast. I want to savor it, so I haven't read it yet, which is ridiculous. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This should be a really fast read, but it is also a recent pickup, so I'm not shocked that it's been on my shelf for a minute. The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. I read The First Ladies this year, and I really, really loved it. This plot seems even more interesting than that one to me, and so I have high expectations, but this is also a recent pickup. I want to read more classics and revisit more things that I read in school growing up and see what I think about them now. One of which that I'm dying to get to is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I think this older cover is actually really cool, and I'd never seen it before. Next up is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I thought this would be a really, really easy book to come by, and I'd spent hours probably combing used bookstores for this, and I finally found it. The President's Wife by Tracy Anderson Wood. This, if I'm being honest, was a pickup at Costco right when I had finished reading The First Ladies that I just mentioned I loved so much, and I think I bought it in a weird moment of like, oh, that was good, maybe this will be good, so I have no expectation for this. Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. This has been on there for a really, really long time. I think I'm just intimidated by it because it is very dense, like physically dense. This is a big book that absolutely just scares me, and that is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This is also maybe the most inconvenient format to read such a beast of a book in, and I do want to read it this year. I don't know that I will, though. And then we've got David Graham's Killers of the Flower Moon. This one is just an intimidating book to pick up. It has sat there for a really long time, but it would actually be a great challenge for me to try and read it in 2025. This is probably the last book I will have bought for 2024, and that is this year's collection of the Best American Short Stories. This year is edited by Lauren Groff, and I've read one of these before, and I had a really good time, and I'm actually super stoked to have one with actually a really pretty cover, because the 2021 version that I read before, horrible cover. I've never read The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, and that is weird, so also this cover is freaking me out of the corner of my eye. One that I never read, feel like I probably should have read at some point, is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Now that the holidays have just passed, and maybe it's gonna sit on my shelf until next winter, but that is Carol by Patricia Highsmith. Yeah, I actually just completely messed up on this one, and I should have read it in December, I think. And then this is a really intimidating one, but I'm super excited about it, and that is The Odyssey, but translated by Emily Wilson, which is the first time it's been translated by a female, I believe. And so this scares me, but I really, really do look forward to it. I just don't know when the right time to read it will be. This one I almost finished, and that's Firestarter by Stephen King. I got so dangerously close, but I have a feeling I'm gonna unhaul this before I ever actually get to it. But we'll let it sit on the shelf for another year. Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. I read in the Dream House recently and I absolutely loved it. So this is kind of an instance of, I want to space those out and I want to be able to absolutely savor this because I know I'm going to devour it. Here we have the first 3 books in the Tales of the City series by Armistead Maupin. This is a very, very good TV show with Elliot Page in it, and it kind of has an abrupt ending, but that made me want to pick up the books. I don't know, it might be a case of the show is better than the books, and that intimidates me because this seems like a lot of book, but this is 3 books in one. Heather Morris's Silka's Journey. This year I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which was an absolute great read, and this one, I want to pick it up because I want to hear more about Silka's journey, but I know that it is going to be absolutely devastating, and I don't know when the right time to do that is. Something that I read in the past but want to see what I think about it now is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This edition is like the same one I read in school, and it's very nostalgic to me, like this actual cover. We've got Love by Toni Morrison. I haven't read any Toni Morrison, and I'm not sure that this is the best place to start because I know there are more widely loved or like recommended Toni Morrison books. So I don't want to screw that up and start somewhere completely random, but I've got this one. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I have no idea what this is about. This was a gift gifted to me by somebody who I truly trust to pick out things for me to read, so I kind of want to go in blind and see what happens. The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. I think I learned about this from Nick over at Books Are Sick, and I'd been keeping my eye out for it for a while, and then when I saw this cover, it really just called my name, and I picked it up and I grabbed it, but kind of a big book, a little bit intimidating to me. We'll see if I read it in 2025. Outlawed by Anna North. I read Whiskey When We're Dry by John Larison. When I was in the store picking that book out, I had both of these in my hand and I was like, which one? And that one was what I got. And so at a later date, I went back and I got this one. But I love Whiskey When We're Dry, so I'm kind of trying to give myself enough time to not hold this to the same standards because they're different stories. I know I read this, but I remember zilch about it. George Orwell's 1984. This is truly a terrifying cover. It's missing a little bit. I think it even has some like annotations going on the inside. But it smells like somebody's basement, maybe. 1984. Fight Club. This is a disgusting cover, but I think it's really, really cool. It's got this weird texture to it, and the picture goes around. I saw this and I had to pick it up because I actually know nothing about this other than, you know, like the first rule of Fight Club. Here's a book that my girlfriend bought. It's not technically mine, but it's absolutely on my list of things to read. She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quindlen. Basketball. Queer. Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This has been on my TBR since forever, like truly since like Eleanor and Park days, and it's I have no defense for why I haven't read it yet. Rainbow did just come out with a new book and I'm itching to read that, but this is a perfect example of one of the 3 I should read before I let myself buy that. Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. Don't know what this is about. For some reason I picked it up. I'll read it one day. Secret Society of Salzburg by Renee Ryan. Also, I think I maybe got this at Costco and I was like, women in airplanes, cool. I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tabaki by Boxay. This is right up my alley. This is kind of a recent pickup. It's a very slim read, should be a quick read, but I've seen like really weird takes on this, like absolute highs and absolute lows, and no person's review or content online has made me want to pick this up. I purely just want to pick this up because I happened upon the summary, and that is so rare that alone has like an added element of intrigue about this one to me. Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This also was influenced by Nick over at Books Are Sick, and it is also a kind of larger book that is a little bit intimidating to me, but I would love to read it this year because that is one of my challenges, to read more 500+ page books. Is this even that? This one is into 600 territory, so we're chilling. My girlfriend bought A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith, and I also want to read it, so I'm going to put it on my list because I kind of think I'll get to it this year. The Logger Queen of Minnesota by J. Ryan Stradel. This I recently read Saturday night at the Lakeside Supper Club, and I didn't like it as much, but I also anticipate I will like this plot more in this storyline. So also, really good cover. This absolutely stood out to me in the bookstore and is the reason I found Stradl's other book. I've got Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. This is for some reason not in with my hardcovers. This is a Rainbow Crate book, or edition of a book, and it has a terrifying back cover to it. I kind of want to go in a little bit blind. Here we've got The Town of Babylon by Alejandro Varela, and a home run of a cover. That's why I picked it out, I'll be honest. The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. I don't know what this is, but I do know I'm supposed to read it, therefore it is on my shelf. Sarah Waters' Tipping the Velvet. This is apparently like one of the most well-loved lesbian novels of all time, I guess. 20th anniversary edition, so yeah, it's been around for a minute. Another book that is kind of large and intimidating, and not something I actually see people talking about. I had to dig kind of to find this, but it seems like the people who love it really, really love it. Colson Whitehead's Harlem Shuffle. I have not read any Colson Whitehead. Is this a great place to start? I don't know. Not a revisit, just something I've never read, but that is The Swiss Family Robinson by John Weiss. This is also a pretty old, beat up copy, but it has that good old book smell, not in the way that 1984 kind of smells a little rank. Lastly, this bookmarks like the end of my TBR shelf, and it is a massively intimidating book to me, and that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagara. I am so intimidated by this book. It would be a big feat for me to read it in 2025, but I think I should while it's still new and like happening, you know? Okay, now we are on to series. Right now, I've got both Ninth House and Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I pride myself on my love for Six of Crows, but I haven't revisited that in a really long time. I just read The Familiar, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, so now I'm kind of nervous to go into these, but I'm so intrigued, and I think these are great cover designs. I think it's just a duology, so I'm safe to go ahead, but I'd been holding out on Ninth House for a really long time because I wanted Hellbent to be out so that I didn't have to wait a year to see what happens next, kind of a thing. If it's not a duology, but I thought it was a duology, but I feel like maybe it's not a duology because I read something somewhere and I'm nervous. So these are still on my TPR, and who knows how long they'll be unless it truly is a confirmed duology. TJ Klune's The House on the Cerulean Sea. I just know I need to read this. I'm excited to read it. I'd actually been looking for it for a long time, and I found it in a used bookshop somewhat recently, so I'm actually positive I will read this in 2025. Grave Mercy by Robin Leffers. I have, like, this has been around for a really, really long time. I never read it when I, like, was at the peak interest. These next ones are actually completely ridiculous. It is Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass. This has literally been on my bookshelf since, like, 2012 or 2013, and I haven't touched it because I wanted the whole series to be out before I picked any of them up, and like that has been accomplished, but now it's just like such an overwhelming series that I haven't done it. Same story goes for ACOTAR. I've got the first two books here from back when they had the weird ugly human covers, and I just like stopped, like I was accumulating them to read them all in one go, and then they changed the covers, and now I don't know if I like, these are so ugly. This has been on my shelf since 2015, so that's ridiculous. We've got the conclusion to like the Curses trilogy, Every Gift a Curse by Carolyn O'Donoghue. I remember hauling this and being super stoked about it, but when I took it home, I put it right next to the other ones that I have read, and I completely forgot about it because that was just dumb placement on my part. Here we've got the absolutely random 6th Percy Jackson book by Rick Riordan. I just feel a need to go revisit the original 5 before I read this, but like I really don't know if that will happen anytime soon. Kind of similar to the ACOTAR stuff, we've got Sabaa Tahir's 2nd and 3rd book in the Ember and the Ashes series. Just a big intimidating series that endured a cover change that I don't really love, and I have these two in this one, and I have the first one and the original one, and then I don't know that they made the whole series in the same cover, so like I just paused with. So yeah, that's my physical TBR. It's kind of out of hand. I think it's about 50 books. That's ridiculous, really, and it shouldn't have ever gotten this far, but here we are. I'm gonna read 3 of these for every 1 book that I buy, or before I'm allowed to buy any single book in 2025, and I hope I knock it out. I've also got the intention of reading some of these bigger books because they're just on there because I'm intimidated by them, and that should not be the case. I can do it. I'm an adult. I can read a big book. I can read a 500-pager if I want to. And I want to now. So some of these will shine this year. That's so ridiculous.